Sound is down. All right. All right, hello again. Happy Monday. So this is 4:30 community yoga with me, Ashley. We're here today at A Wandering Spirit like we are every week, so that hasn't changed. As always, if you ever have any requests, I keep my phone by me, so you can just tap them down in the comments section and I can try to compensate for that. So if you're feeling a little tight in the neck or the shoulders, or you would like to do more abs or hip stuff, or even if you wanted to work on some arm balances, really anything that you guys want. This is a community practice, so just feel to type out that stuff. And we always leave these videos up so that you can come back in and view these videos anytime that you want. So we're gonna get going in just a moment. So if you would like, you can set up your music however you would like. You can light some candles, any equipment that you might need. I grabbed a couple of blocks today just because my legs are a little tight, so I don't know how close I will be reaching the floor today. If you do have any shoulder issues, I recommend just grabbing a small towel or a belt just to hold on to during some of the postures. Other than that, we will get started today. We are going to start standing today, somewhere towards the top of your mat. And just always check your surroundings. Make sure you don't have too much going on around you so you don't whack anything or hurt yourself. So just finding a spot somewhere towards the top of the mat, and feel free to ground down here. So think about dropping your tailbone down towards the floor, pulling your belly button in. We'll stay nice and soft in the knees, so not locking up the legs, but keeping a small bend to them. Arms are gonna come down by the side. Think about slightly rolling your shoulders back, lifting the chest, and holding here. Starting in Tadasana this Monday afternoon. So just start to drop into your Ujjayi breath, your deep fire breath, if that's in your practice. And if not, just start to deeply breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Think about rooting down through the feet, maybe lifting up the toes, spreading them apart, and then rolling them back down into your mat. Just getting the feet as flat as we can down on the floor. Spreading apart the fingertips, anchoring your elbows down towards the mat, but allow the upper body to lift up towards the ceiling. So think about the body just stretching in either direction, and just imagine a string at the top of the crown of the head, lifting itself up. So we're just growing a little tall here. And you might have some thoughts flow through the mind, just anything that happened throughout your day or that you might have going on during the week. So allow them to pass through, but try not to become too attached to them. We can pick those thoughts back up later after practice, but this is a good time to just wind down from the day. So from here, just go ahead and drop your right ear to your right shoulder. Again, pressing the shoulders away from the ears, feeling that stretch in the left side of the neck. And roll the chin to chest. Good. And left ear, left shoulder. And I see that some of you guys have commented on the video, so I'll double check with that and just see what's going on, who we got joining today. And then roll your chin to your there we go, can't talk ever. Chin to chest. Good, and then carving a line with the nose up towards the ceiling, allow the head to fall back, opening up the front of the throat. And if it's available here, if your shoulders aren't too tight, feel free to take the hands behind the back and release the fingers. Roll your shoulders back and down, maybe even slightly press the hips forward for a gentle back bend. We're not gonna go too deep into it just yet. And last breath in. And then exhale back to neutral. So coming back to a neutral stance, we'll bring the hands down by the side. On your next inhale, lifting the shoulders up by the ears, and exhale, roll them back. And just keep moving with your breath. Feel free to get a little exaggerated on this, maybe adding in the elbows, just like you're rowing a boat, rolling them back. 2 more. And last one. And we'll roll them forward. Inhale, lift the shoulders up by the ears, and then drop them forward. Maybe even slightly rounding the upper back. Just starting to shake off any tension that we might have carried into the room today. Good, and last one. Good, from here, go ahead and inhale. The arms are gonna come up towards the ceiling. Maybe the gaze follows. Feel free to come up high onto the toes. And then as you exhale, draw the elbows to either side. Open up the chest. All the way back down. And again, inhale, lift the arms up, high up onto the toes. Woo. And then exhale, press the heels down, open up the chest, elbows crack apart. Last one, deep breath in, arms close. Maybe the chin lifts, maybe you fall off your mat like me. And then exhale, drop it down. So it's okay if you lose your balance in postures like that. I always do. It's always about just kind of coming back into it and resetting. So from here, we're gonna just take the hands up one last time. This time, grab onto your right wrist, bending your left elbow, and just gently lean to the left side, pressing your hips to the right. Again, pulling in that belly button, maybe looking up underneath the right arm. And back through center, other side, grabbing your left wrist, bend the right elbow. Lean to the right side, press your hips towards the left side of your mat. Maybe the gaze goes up underneath the left arm, and if it doesn't, that's okay. And inhale, lift up back through center. Hands are gonna come behind the back one last time. Interlace the fingers. Again, this is where you can grab a small towel if your hands are not comfortable here, or you can always grab a belt and create that space. Rolling your shoulders back, bend the knees, and then slowly come into a forward fold. Relaxing the neck. And feel free to just bend and straighten your knees. Shake out the head, yes and no. And then go ahead and release the arms down. And it's the first forward fold of the day for most of us. So feel free here to take a deep bend in the knees, allow the chest to drop onto the thighs. Try not to lift the gaze up. So a lot of times we want to look up towards the computer screen and see what I'm doing. I am doing the exact same thing that you are doing, just hanging out. So make sure that your neck is just dropped. Drop it down, keeping in mind it's part of your spine. So we want to protect our bones, not add strain. And just feel free here to maybe shift out your hips side to side. Notice what's feeling tight today. If the hips are a little bit tight, you can feel free to heel toe the feet open as wide as your mat. Create some space between it. And if you're feeling a little flexible, you can actually straighten your legs here if that's where you're at in your practice. So again, I'm more here of a guide to help guide you through your practice, and we can just go from there. So whatever you're feeling today. And then go ahead and take your hands to your shins. Inhale, halfway rise. Shoulders are gonna press back. Think about, again, your neck is nice and long with your spine. Heels are pressing it down into the floor. Breathing deeply through the nose, keeping that belly button slightly pulled in. We're gonna activate our core a little bit today. And then as you exhale, go ahead and slide the hands back down, forward fold, deep bend in the knees. And last breath. And when you're ready, go ahead and slowly press into the heels. We'll roll up one vertebrae at a time, letting your chin be the last to rise. So we'll just get in one more final body stretch. Arms are gonna come up. Think about really reaching for the ceiling, pressing the hips forward, maybe sneak in a little back bend, and then exhale, forward fold. Arms windmill out all the way down. Good, again, inhale, halfway rise, hands to shins. Exhale back down through fold. And we're gonna bend the knees deeply and take a giant step back with the left foot. So just holding here for a moment, setting up our foundation first, and then drop that left knee down to the floor. Feel free to keep your toes tucked if you'd like, otherwise you can drop that down. And then shift forward. So this is where your blocks might come in handy if this is really painful for you. Hopefully it's not painful. So you can always push to the level of discomfort in yoga, but if you do start feeling some pain in the body, that's where you might want to add in some props. So this is just kind of a nice way to take off that stretching and straining and find that relaxing and releasing point, especially during the beginning of practice. We're just warming up the muscles. We don't want to come in too deep, too fast. Good. Keeping your shoulders back. If you'd like to flatten that back foot, feel free. Any pain in the back knee, you can always put a towel underneath. And then keeping your chest lifted, we'll hold here for one more breath. You guys will soon see that this sequence is always my favorite, the lunge to hamstring stretch. And then when you're ready, go ahead and roll the hips towards that back heel, straighten the leg in front of you. Try to avoid rounding here. We don't want to round up and cover the ears. Think about, again, crown of the head moving forward, hips are shifting back, maybe flex that heel. Again, use your blocks if you would like today. My legs are a little tight from running. The weather's kind of nice, not really. Windy. It was nice a couple days ago, but that's New England. So go ahead and roll it forward one more time. This time we're going to shift in here. And if you would like, maybe take one hand up to the right thigh if that feels comfortable. And if you start to feel a little bit too much pressure in the pelvic floor, just take it back down. And feel free to, again, you can experiment here with your body. If this is enough, stay here. Otherwise, maybe you want to take that left arm up, framing your bicep to your ear. Think about lifting the chest slightly. And then exhale, windmill that left arm down to the mat. Tucking your back toes, press through the back heel, lift the quad up. We'll step the left foot forward and inhale, halfway rise. Back through fold. Good, root to rise, bend the knees, roll it all the way up. Gentle back bend at the top, arms float up. Maybe your palms get a little bit closer to one another this time. Maybe the fingertips even touch. And then exhale, windmill it all the way back down. Inhale, halfway rise, hands to shins. Back through fold. Good, from here, bend the knees as deep as you can. Gaze is gonna come forward, and then step the right foot all the way back. Gently set the knee down. Flatten the foot if that's comfortable. Sometimes keeping the toes tucked will just help with your balance. But for me, I like to flatten my foot. And then go ahead and shift in for a lunge. So just, again, keeping that in mind, one thing that might work for me might not necessarily work for you. So it's good to explore your options and go with what option is best for you. And then when you're ready, go ahead and soften into that pelvic floor, lifting the chest, dropping your shoulders back. One thing, little pro tip here, you can always check in with your back heel. Sometimes that heel turns inwards and sometimes it turns outwards. So we want to practice our alignment here. Yoga can really help with the alignment of your body. So think about shifting and just turning that heel so it's going back straight, rather so it doesn't have that weird pickle curve. Sometimes my metaphors aren't always great, but you get the visual, so straighten out the pickle. Good. Inhale, lift the hips up, press the hips back, lengthen the crown of the head forward. And again, avoid that rounding and crunching. So we always want to create a little bit of space. Just imagine there's a small hand, your shoulders back and down. Maybe your left foot flexed, maybe not, and that's okay. Good, last deep breath in here. And then exhale, we're gonna roll it forward once again, coming into that long lunge. This time, again, you can explore your options, but don't feel obligated to stay in any posture that's not meant for you today. So maybe that left hand comes up onto the thigh, maybe not, it's up to you. Maybe you want to explore lifting that right arm up. And a lot of times what happens is we cave in a little bit too deep here. So feel free to activate your core and just add a little bit of a lift just to take that pressure off. And if it feels good, sinking into it, that's okay too. Again, shoulder is going to continue to drop down the spine. This is also a good way to check in with the range of the motion of the shoulders and the arms. So a lot of times as we get older, I can't always speak, arms are going to get a little bit more challenging to lift them up. So it's nice to practice to see where we're at in our motion in the shoulders and in the arms. So this is just a good way to practice driving that bicep back to frame the ear. Good, last breath in. And then exhale, windmill that right arm down. Pivot the hips back, lengthening the crown of the head forward. Last time. Maybe flexing the heel. Again, I don't typically like to flex my heel. It just doesn't do anything for me, but for someone else, it might. So explore that option. Think about pointing your toes up towards the ceiling, driving your heel down, all while pushing your hips back and lengthening the crown of the head forward. So I know this can be a lot of directives, but don't worry about them too much. Just focus on your breath, focus on the movement. And then go ahead and reset. We will flatten the left foot. Again, I tend to put my blocks to the side when I'm going into a transition because I am clumsy AF, so I tend to hurt my wrists when I try to balance on them and come up. So that's just another tip I can give you. So go ahead and tuck the right toes, press through the back quad, lift that back leg. We'll step the right foot forward and inhale, halfway rise. And then exhale back down. Good, press into the heels, roll the spine up, one vertebrae at a time, root to rise, arms float up, push the hips forward, gentle back bend, and then exhale, forward fold. Relax the neck. Inhale, hands to shins, halfway rise, back down. Good, bending the knees as much as you need to get both hands down to the mat, and we're gonna come into a high plank. So you can step, walk, or jump back. I'm just gonna take a giant step back today. Creating a nice long line with the spine, dropping the knees down, toes are gonna stay tucked. Shift the hips forward so that we're not arching the spine to come down. We're gonna press the hips forward, gaze comes just beyond the fingertips, draw the elbows in, and then lower your chest down between the thumbs, flatten the feet, and roll up baby cobra. So again, just starting to warm up the spine. Take a few breaths here. A little side note here, you should be able to lift the hands up. So we don't want to muscle through this one too much. We want to think about lifting up through the chest and think about pushing your hip bones down into the mat. Neck is nice and long. One more breath here. And then from here, we're going to push all the way back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Shavasana, tucking the toes. Think about drawing the elbows in. Inhale, push up. And then exhale, roll it all the way back, downward facing. And it's the first down dog of the day. So again, walk out the feet, stretch out the calves. Fingertips are nice and wide into the floor. Making any movement that feels good for you. And if your heels touch very easily against the back of the mat, maybe just take a little bit of a step back. So let's make this a very active downward facing dog. And if you feel like you have a lot of pressure on the hands, you might be a little bit too close. So create some space. We want to recreate an upside down V. So evening weight between the feet and the hands. And then keeping those necks relaxed, externally rotating the arms. And just imagine there's two fingers pushing your chest down to the floor. Any time here that this gets a little tiring, you can just come down to the knees, take a small break, and then come back up when you're ready. And from here, inhale, look forward. We're gonna bend the knees, walk, step, or lightly hop. Top of the mat, halfway rise. And then exhale through fold. Good, root to rise, bend the knees, roll it all the way up. And exhale, hands through heart center. So from here, we're gonna really dive into opening up the hips, hamstrings, and hip flexors today, as we always do. Every yoga class is a hip class. So from here, take a medium step back with the left foot. So just a medium step. We're not coming into any splits yet. So just a small medium step. And rather than thinking about, I think I say this every week, walking on a tightrope, you want to imagine you have one of those small trained, I have no balance today, I'm not even doing this. This is just happening, I need more water. So just imagine that you are stepping over a small train track. So one foot on either side, both feet are going to be facing 12 o'clock, as are the hips. So setting up here, I am so unbalanced today, but that's why we came to the mat, because we're going to fix that. So again, shifting out the hips. Your right hip might want to come a little bit too far forward. So squaring off the hips, imagine that you have two headlights on either side. We want to point them forward. And then you might need your blocks here. I am going to pre-position my blocks just so that they are good to go when I come down. And inhale, arms are going to come up. Exhale, begin to reach forward. So the arms are really extending forward towards the front of your mat. The hips are extending back. And then when I feel my spine beginning to round, that's my stopping point today, taking the hands down onto my blocks. And again, if you don't have blocks at home, you can always use two big books. You can always use really anything that you have around. I think over the summer when I was making these videos, I used pots and pans because I didn't have blocks. So that's always an option. And again, another option is you can just bring your hands to your thigh and use your core to stabilize. So we never want to be completely relying on these blocks. Use your core to stay lifted. And then think about driving that right hip back as that left hip comes forward. So just stretching out here. Taking a few deep breaths into the hamstrings. Again, rooting down. See what movements you can make just to come a little deeper. Maybe you can begin to come lower so long as that back is straight. Last deep breath in. And then exhale, go ahead and take the hands to the hips. Press into the right heel, inhale, come all the way up. We're gonna come into one more variation of that pose. This is where you might need a towel or a belt, or if your shoulders are feeling pretty flexible today, you might be okay. So we'll take the hands behind the back, interlace the fingers. Once again, roll the shoulders back and down. Start with a little back bend, lifting the chest up. And then as you exhale, fold over that front leg. Now don't worry too much here about keeping a flat back. It might be a little inevitable for this posture, but just allow the hands to press up towards the ceiling any amount. Again, yours might not look like mine, and that's okay. Just start to notice where you feel it, and if you come out of balance, that's okay. You can just hop right back in and hold here. And then keeping the neck nice and straight, shifting out the hips, maybe go a little bit deeper. See if you can tap your nose to your knee if that's available. Good, keeping those hands interlaced. Press into the heels, roll the shoulders back, lift it all the way up, chest up towards the ceiling. And then exhale back to neutral, release. Good, shifting it out. We'll step the left foot forward and rock out the hips. Switching sides. So these are one of the postures we're gonna hold a little bit longer just to really dive into the hamstrings, which is gonna help us with our practice later. So stepping our right foot back, again, we're gonna set up our foundation first. So really digging into the basics here. Pulling that left hip back, the right hip will shift forward, keeping the tailbone slightly dropped, both feet facing 12 o'clock. Make sure you're not walking on that tightrope. Space it out with the feet. And then inhale, the arms are gonna float up. Exhale, reach for the front of your mat as the hips are pulling back. Find your blocks or your shin. And then just continuously pull the left hip back as the right hip is driving forward. That is going to help you feel this a little bit more. And if you need to make any other adjustments, feel free. Otherwise, sink into it. One leg might be a little tighter than the other. Adjust as you need to. And try to keep the shoulders away from the ears. Keep the belly pulling in towards the back of the spine. So always staying mindful, staying activated. Stay consistent with the inhales and exhales if that's all you can do. So sometimes that's all you can do is just breathe through it. And one more breath in here. And then softening the knees, pressing down through the heels. Hands will come to the hips. Inhale, rise up. And take those hands behind the back or holding onto your towel. Roll the shoulders back, lift the chest first. And then exhale, begin to roll the body down. Arms are gonna float up over the head, rounding it out. Again, if you lose your balance, that's okay. Just come right back into it. Think about firmly pressing down through the heels, the feet, maybe tapping your nose to your knee. Ooh. Good. Last deep breath in. And then find your balance. Press into the heels. We'll lift it all the way back up, growing taller. Press the hips forward, arch back. And take it back to neutral. Good, hands to the hips, step it forward, rock it out side to side. Inhale, arms are gonna come up. Full body stretch, arch it back, maybe a little deeper than before, and then exhale, forward fold. Gentle vinyasa here. Shins, halfway rise, back through fold. Good, walk or step to high plank. And then go ahead and feel free to drop to the knees, or this time, stay in a long plank. Lower down, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. Maybe holding for a breath here. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Press it back. Good, rock out the hips. Bending and straightening the knees. And from here, go ahead and lift that right leg up towards the ceiling. Bend the knee, flex your foot, and stack the hips, lifting the right knee up towards the ceiling, and hold here. Now, if that becomes a little bit too much, you can always drop down to a knee and just practice rolling out the hip. And the more you get used to this transition in practice, then eventually you'll be able to come up here. So holding here, maybe squaring off your shoulders towards the mat. Maybe you can even look underneath that left arm and see your right foot. So constantly working through it. And if you're shaking a little, that's okay. Good. Look up towards the hands, straighten the right leg, and then shift it all the way through, holding here. Good. Press through that back heel. If you need to drop to a knee, that's always an option. Otherwise, we're gonna come into a gentle twist using your blocks if you need them. Placing your left hand down by the left heel, twist your right arm either up to the lower sacrum or all the way up to the ceiling. Again, modified version here. Keep the knee down. Otherwise, lift that back quad up, twist from the core, and drive the right hip down. Any tension in the neck or the arm, just leave that hand down on the hip. And one more breath in. And exhale, windmill down. Good, we'll do a little hop skip here. So left foot will come forward, right foot will come back. Planting our right hand down, twist the left arm, modified version, drop the knee, hand comes to the hip, and then mindfully tell yourself to pull that left hip down, otherwise hold here for a stretch. On your inhales, you're reaching up to the ceiling, and as you exhale, you're wringing out through the torso. And just hold. Good. Keeping the body lifted, not collapsing into that right arm. Last breath in. And then exhale, windmill that left arm down. Good, go ahead and put that block aside if you're using it. And we're gonna send the left leg all the way back and up. Setting up for our twist. Flex the foot, bend the knee, and then drive your knee up towards the ceiling. Maybe looking underneath that right arm, and squaring up your shoulders to the mat. You can do this on the knees if you need to. Feel free to roll out the hip. And then straighten the leg and release it down to the floor. And one breath in, exhale out. Good, from here, go ahead and walk your hands back towards the feet this time. Forward fold. Inhale, halfway rise. Good, back down. When you're ready, go ahead and bend your knees, press into the heels, roll the spine up one vertebrae at a time. Inhale, lift the arms up, and exhale, drive it into heart center. So we're gonna be doing a couple different balance transitions here. God knows I need it today. So we're gonna root down through the right foot. So spreading out the toes, placing it down, finding something on the floor not moving. We call these drishkis in yoga, something to bring our attention to. So really dive into the breaths here. Breath here. Whew. Okay, so go ahead. Lift that left foot up. I haven't had a lot of water today, so I feel like I got this little like Sylvester the cat thing going on. Flexing the heel, and if you get a little shaky, that's okay. Find your balance, root to rise. So really think about building your foundation first, and then lifting it up. Maybe the hands come to heart center. If you're really unbalanced, that's okay. You can take your hands out to the side, wherever. Sometimes imagining that you have two end tables on either side of you, holding you down, that can be a good visual. You can always take the hands to the hips or hands to the heart. So we'll start here today. Good, and come right into tree pose. So you can have a couple options here. See if you can maybe put your toes down first and just rest your heel against your shin. So if you're really new to this practice and you're really new to balance poses, this is a good way to practice tree pose, because what we want to avoid is putting your foot against your knee. What could happen is you could lose your balance and press into your knee, and I'm really bow-legged, so this doesn't happen to me, but you could press into your knee and cause a little bit of injury there, so that's why we want to either keep it below the knee or above. So that's my embarrassing confession of the day, is that I am extremely bow-legged, but none of us are perfect. So from here, you can either keep your foot down, or you can grab the ankle and pull it up into that thigh, pressing your foot against the thigh, drawing your shoulders back, and holding here. Try to avoid gripping your toes down into the mat. Good, belly button pulls in, maybe the arms float up. You can always explore here, maybe the gaze starts to travel up the wall in front of you. Maybe you add a little back bend. And then go ahead and release. Shake it out. And so balances aren't always fun, but they're good to practice for stamina and mindfulness. Good, and as we get older, again, we're getting younger. It's good to add in those balance postures. So again, pedal out the feet, especially if they felt like they were cramping, stretching out the tops of the toes, shaking out the hips, and we'll switch sides. So again, root to rise, press down through the left heel. That right heel will rise up, flexing the foot, holding here. Find your balance first, so get used to this. Now, I should have said this on the other side, but if you want to stay here, if this is new for you and this is a little challenging, you can always hold onto a wall, you can hold onto a table, whatever's around you. Don't feel like you can't do those things. You can absolutely hold on to anything for balance. And then as you get stronger and used to these poses, then you can start to remove those objects. Good. From here, again, you can put the foot on the floor, resting the heel against the shin, or drive it up into that hip flexor area, that inner thigh, pressing your foot towards your thigh. Imagine you're leaning up against a wall. Maybe the hands come to the heart, really opening up here. Find your drishti. Tap back into the breath. And maybe the arms extend up, extending your branches. Maybe lifting the chest up. Maybe the gaze travels up the wall slowly. Maybe you add a back bend. And then release. Good, shake it out. Bending and straightening the toes. Good, inhale, the arms are gonna come up. We're gonna come into a vinyasa. Exhale, forward fold. Hands to shins, halfway rise. Back down. Walk the hands, top of the mat. Feel free to drop to the knees or lower down, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. And then exhale, downward facing dog. One breath in, one breath out. Good, right leg will rise, bend the knee, flex the foot, stack the hips. And then take that right leg, send it all the way through between the hands. Good, we're gonna come into a little bit of a hybrid pose today with the hips. So from here, drop the left heel down to the mat, and we'll windmill up warrior one, Virabhadrasana. So if you need to step a little closer in, that's okay. I'm gonna turn around just so you can see me. And so back heel is dropped. Oops, our left foot is back, isn't it? Squaring off the hips here. So push your right hip back, left hip will shift forward. Right leg is in front. Square off the ribs. So really pull the ribs forward, shoulders are forward. And if it doesn't look perfect, that's okay. It's just a practice. It's just yoga. Good, inhale, lift up. Good, and then exhale, we're gonna straighten that front leg, just like we did in our pyramid pose at the beginning of practice. We're gonna lunge forward and release the arms down to the thigh or to your blocks. What we wanna create is that flat back. So if your hands are on the floor and your back is slightly rounding, just take it up a little bit higher. Feel free to put a bend into the knee. This leg is a little bit more flexible on me personally, so I seem to be able to take my hands down. So again, adjust to you. Good, continuously pull the right hip back as the left hip comes forward. And one more breath in. And now exhale, go ahead and allow the upper body to fold down. So go ahead and allow that little freedom here. And then when you're ready, press into the heel. We'll bring it all the way back up. Virabhadrasana 1. Good. Go ahead and open up. Vira 2. So that back heel just comes parallel now to the back of your mat. Right thigh presses towards the right pinky toe, and check in here. So we want to keep the hips open and square. So a lot of times the left hip is going to lift up towards the ceiling. Drop that down, square them off. Open up the right hip. Good, arms are gonna come out long. And if you notice it looks something like this, or maybe you're reaching forward, don't be in a rush to get there. Meet yourself in the middle. arms are parallel. Chest cracks open, tailbone drops down. So it's all about setting up these strong warrior postures, taking a breath in, and exhale. Good, flip that right palm up to the ceiling. On your next inhale, reach up and back, graceful warrior. Left hand slides down the left leg. And then go ahead and windmill that right arm to the right thigh. Left arm extends up and over. Now, if you're looking for a little bit of a challenge today, you want to really focus on that core, you can always take that right arm and bring it out straight in front of you like you're holding a platter while your left arm is reaching above the head. So just like we practiced before with our arm framing our bicep, that's all we're doing. Our arm framing our bicep, our arm framing our ear. Good, last breath in, continuously twist. And then exhale, one more, graceful warrior. Good, hit the deck. We're gonna windmill that right hand either all the way down towards that right heel as the left arm comes up, or if you want a modified version, you're gonna bring that left knee down and flatten the foot. So that's always an option here. Otherwise, we're gonna stay right here. Roll your ribs back, inhale, lift up. And if you feel like your shoulders are caving here and you're not really able to lift that left arm, that's okay. Consider trying it down here first and see if that works better for you. So this might actually be better for you today. So again, those are all options that you can work with. Good, one more breath in here. And then we're gonna work our way into Skandasana. So take that left hand, and we're going to windmill the floor, walk over to the left hip. So just essentially walking to the back of the mat so that we are in the hip crease of the left hip, and now the right toes are gonna face the ceiling. And if you don't come down this low, that's okay. You can always come into an extended lunge and just press into the hip and open up. So otherwise, stay here, work into that inner thigh. Good, and then go ahead and take your vinyasa. Walk the hands back to the front of the mat. Now, if you don't want to take a vinyasa, that's okay. Just meet us in a forward fold at the top of the mat. Otherwise, step that right foot back. Feel free to drop to the knees, lower chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. And exhale, roll over the toes, downward facing dog. Rock out the hips. One breath in, and one breath out. Now you can stay right where you are. I'm just gonna turn around so that I can demonstrate the opposite side. Good, from here, left leg is gonna rise. Bend the knee, flex the foot, stack the hips, really drive that knee up to the ceiling. And then straighten the legs, send it all the way through. Good, pressing through here. Now drop the back heel down and come up, warrior one. So when you come up into your warriors, don't make it too complicated, just get up there. And then once you're up there, then you can make your changes and tweaks. So from here, again, start with your base. You might get up here and notice that maybe the legs are too far. So feel free to heel toe the feet in a little closer. And then you can start making your adjustments, driving the left hip back as the right hip comes forward, squaring off the ribs. And if that left knee isn't completely parallel to the mat, it's not the end of the world. And if you feel like your ankle is going to break, adjust. So it's all about adjusting. We're not trying out for Yoga Journal. This is just a free yoga class that you're doing at home. So it's all about just doing the best that you can, driving the hip back, squaring off the shoulders, and then maybe those arms come up to the ceiling. Just breathing here. So just remember, you're here to feel good. You're here to stretch out the body. And last deep breath in, lift. And then as we exhale, we're gonna reach to that front foot. Arms are gonna windmill down. You might need some blocks here. My left leg is a little tight today, so I'm gonna Add some handy dandy blocks here just to bring the floor a little closer. Keep in mind you want to pull the left hip back as that right hip comes forward, and then maybe even allow yourself to fold down. So whatever's feeling good here. You might notice staying up a little higher feels good, but whatever's feeling good for you. Good, last breath in. Remember, we're going all the way into our graceful warrior, so just be mindful of where we're going. And inhale, look up towards the toes of the top of the mat. Press into that left heel, we'll come up. Warrior one, open, warrior two. Virabhadrasana. So all the warriors begin with Virabhadrasana, which is just Sanskrit for warrior pose. Good. Now checking in with the back heel. Back heel is parallel to the back of your mat. The hips are going to open up as the left thigh drives towards that left pinky toe. Lift up through the ribs. Arms come up, shoulders drop back and down. Gaze is over those left fingertips. Just breathing. Good. Flip that left palm up to the ceiling. Inhale, arch back. And then exhale, side angle, taking that left arm down to the left thigh, right arm extends up and over, holding here. Another option here. Again, you can extend that left arm out in front, or maybe frame both arms to the ears, holding here. This takes a lot of core work to hold. You can always keep it down too. Good, inhale, come up, graceful warrior. And then go ahead, hit the deck. We'll take that left arm down to the inside of the left heel. Right arm comes up. Modified version here is down on the mat. Because what we want to avoid is that hovering. So if it looks something like this, consider trying it down on the floor first. Good, otherwise rolling the ribs back, staying strong in the legs, lifting up. So I know that this is a lot today, but this is just creating space in the body. Good, one more deep breath in. And then exhale, Skandasana. That right arm is gonna windmill down, walk it over to the back of the mat as that left heel flips up towards the ceiling. Good, stretching it out. Tapping into your breath. We're almost down on the floor. A couple more things we gotta do. And then we're gonna dive into some deep hip openers. Good, go ahead and walk it. Top of the mat. We'll sneak in a little sun salutation here. Good, step that left leg back. Feel free to drop to the knees or lower chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Press the heels back. Good, one breath in and one breath out. Good, go ahead and drop the knees down. Sit back, child's pose. Take a break. Relaxing the forehead down on the mat. Giving the body some time to recover. And one more breath in here. And then as you exhale, we're slowly going to begin to roll the spine up into a tabletop position. Stacking the knees below the hips and shoulders above the wrists. And feel free to just rock out the hips side to side here, maybe making some small circles, starting to lubricate out those joints even more. We're going to dive deeper into the hip flexors in just a moment, but we're gonna warm them up a little bit first. So from here, you might need your blocks, you might not. It depends on your flexibility. This is gonna be a very subtle posture, but it really does great things for those hip flexors. So go ahead and just come up onto the knees. Now, if you have any pain on your knees, you can always fold up your mat just to add a little bit of cushion, creates that about inch worth of thickness, or you can place a towel down. So we'll start with the left foot forward just so I can demonstrate this. So left foot comes forward again, feel free to put something on the side. Now rather than leaning in for a lunge, which really stretches out about this area within the leg in the hip flexor, we're gonna focus more on the hip flexor. So again, avoid lunging forward, but what we're gonna do is just imagine that our pelvic floor is a bucket of water. So when the bucket of water is tipping forward, so we're arching our spine, it's dumping out, so all that water is coming out. So we're gonna do the opposite effect. We're going to focus on that hip flexor. So tilt it up, tilt the bucket of water up, your pelvic bone essentially, up, and then drop your tailbone down to the floor. So putting one hand on the tailbone and one hand on the lower belly, just reminding yourself to drop it down, finding that lift here can help. And then you might be able to feel that stretch in the front. So especially if you are somebody who sits all day, sometimes that muscle can get really, really tight. Where someone like a teacher or a doctor or someone working on the flight line, running around all day, if you know, you know. Good, holding here. I think I'm funny, but I'm not that funny. I laugh at my own jokes. Good, holding here. Good, find that stretch. We'll take one more breath in. And then exhale to release. Good, now from here, we're gonna take the hands down to the inside of the foot. So it should be foot, hand, hand. Take that left leg and we're just gonna extend it out to the side. Now again, I'm gonna turn just so you can see me. But that left leg is coming out to the side now. Planting your right hand just below the chest, go ahead and twist the left arm up towards the ceiling, rotating through the chest. Now another option here, if you want a little bit more of a challenging version, you can always tuck the right toes and press through that back heel, lifting up the back leg. Just an option, not a necessity. Good, and then windmill that left arm down. Go ahead and drop the right knee back down to the floor if it's up there. And now listen carefully, you're gonna take your left heel, turn it in towards the body. So the left heel is turning in towards the body, toes are now facing out. And begin to walk your hands over into that left hip. So walking it over, and as you do so, your right heel is going to flex. So think about flexing that heel just to avoid injury and that knee coming as deep into it as you can. This is gonna dive even deeper into the hips, and then hold here. Now, if you want to go deeper into this, you're always welcome to lift an arm up. It's not necessary. If that's not for you today, it's just an option. So otherwise, just hold here. Couple more breaths. Good, slowly walk the hands back through center. And again, listen carefully. We're gonna take that left foot. This time we're gonna windmill it behind the right. So the knees are now crossed. Again, I'm just gonna rotate so you can see. And then we're just gonna gently sit the hips back. So this is a version of Garushasana. Just a little bit different, a little bit of a different posture. Really sitting the hips back again. Don't worry about how low you go into this. It's just another way to open up through the hips. So kind of some funky positions today. Playing around on this Monday afternoon. Good, and then when you're ready, go ahead and roll up. We'll keep the knees crossed. We're gonna come into a little bit of a different stretch here. Now, again, just do what you can. None of these postures are mandatory. I am not making you have any mandatory fun. So this is just yoga. So from here, we're going to bend the left knee. Now, if it's a little confusing because the legs are crossed right now, it's the leg that's on top. If you try to bend your other knee, it's just not gonna happen. So left knee bends, see if maybe you can reach back for that foot and come into a twist. Now, if this is not available for you, that's okay. You can always just stay right here and stretch out the hips. So these are just different postures for you to think about and come into and see what really works for you and feels good, and maybe just give you a little mindfulness of what you can work on. Good, continuously draw the shoulder back, maybe look up towards the ceiling. This is a great way to get into that outer hip and glute. Good, and then gently unwind and rock out those hips. We're gonna switch over onto the other side. I know that was a long sequence, but just go ahead and switch it out. Whew. Feel free to rock out the hips side to side. Coming into that hip flexor stretch first, we'll bring our right leg forward, stacking our knee above the heel, and then go ahead and come up. So again, just imagining that bucket of water. We'll drop the tailbone down towards the floor, belly button pulls in towards the spine, shoulders drawn back. You can keep your hands here just to be mindful of that pelvic tilt. And even just imagine the tailbone just getting heavier down. Again, the more we practice this, it'll get simpler and easier to understand the movements. So holding here, a couple more breaths. Good, last two, inhale. And last one, inhale. And then exhale, slowly come out. We're gonna come into those big stretches into the sides. So this time I'll show you from the opposite angle. So taking that right leg, we're just gonna extend it out to the side, pressing all four corners of the foot down into the floor. And if you travel off your mat on these, that's okay. Left hand plants down. We'll take our right hand up to the sacrum or all the way up to the ceiling. Again, anytime your shoulder is tight or the arms just don't want to do it, you can keep your hand on the hip. You can also keep it behind the head to support the neck, but feel free to take that arm up to the ceiling. And remember, don't collapse into this arm here. We want to keep it lifting. So always lifting, always opening. And that second option, if you want to add that little bit of a challenge this afternoon, you can tuck the left toes, press through the heel and lift that back quad. Two more breaths. Last one. And looking down towards the floor, we'll windmill the right arm down, gently set the left knee down to the floor if it was raised, and turn the right toes in, left toes turn out, and begin to walk your hands over to that right heel. As you do so, that left foot is going to flex. So think about dropping the tailbone again down towards the mat, opening up the lower spine, opening up the hips. Sinking in here. So a little bit of a froggy stretch here. If you remember that game, Frogger, that was my favorite game. I was so good at it, even though the only purpose of the game was to take a frog across the street, so I guess it wasn't that hard. But neither here nor there. So from here, feel free to take a left arm up towards the ceiling. Or keep it down on the mat. Good. We'll walk it back through center. And then just go ahead and sweep that right leg behind the left knee and sit the hips back to stretch out the outer hips, soften down. Taking some deep breaths. Again, the key is not to worry about how flexible you are or how deep you come into these poses. It's more about feeling good. So as long as you're getting some kind of benefit out of these practices, stretching or just breathing in general, you can just breathe with us then that is something. And slowly come on out. We'll stack the knee, we're gonna leave the knees right where they are. And you can stay in that position, or we're gonna come into that quad stretch. Go ahead and bend the right leg. I just tried to bend my left one and it didn't happen. So grabbing onto that foot, push your foot into your hand, draw the left shoulder back, and again, if you lose balance, that's okay. Take a couple breaths in. And then exhale, gently release. Good, unwind your legs, and we're just gonna rotate out the hips. So maybe make some figure eights. Maybe just draw out circles with the hips, keeping them loose and relaxed. And then why don't we take one more vinyasa? So stacking our shoulders above the wrists, tucking the toes, we'll push it back into a high plank, lower chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Pressing the heels to the back of the mat and hold here. Good. Inhale, looking up towards the hands. Bend the knees, walk, step, or even lightly hop, top of the mat, halfway rise. And then exhale through fold. Good. Press into the heels, roll up one vertebrae at a time. Inhale, lift the arms up. Little back bend here. And exhale, hands through heart center. Good. So coming into just one more balance pose for the evening. I know we thought we were done, almost done. We'll take the hands, interlace the fingers, pointer fingers pointed up, left thumb over right to start. Now, if you want, if balance really isn't your forte today, you can keep the hands down by the side. Otherwise, we're gonna begin to root down, root to rise, root down through the right foot, and that left foot is gonna rise up. Now working our way into Virabhadrasana 3, Warrior 3 pose, one-legged balance. We're gonna begin to stamp the back wall with the left foot, and arms are gonna reach forward. Now again, you can take the arms out to the side, you can hold on to blocks here. Otherwise, holding here, taking a few breaths in, and then very gently bend the right knee, drop the left heel down, crescent lunge pose. Lift up and then exhale. So the back heel is lifted. You can take the hands down if you'd like. Good, last breath in. And then exhale, release the hands to the hips. Straighten the front leg, drop the left heel down, and then hinge forward, down. Wide runner's lunge. Taking soft breaths here. We won't stay here as long. We're just kind of stretching and wringing it out. Good, inhale, look up. And then from here, we're just going to step the left foot forward. And once again, halfway rise through fold. Good, press into the heels, roll up one vertebrae at a time. Arms float up, last back bend of the evening. And then exhale, hands to heart center, resetting for Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana. Interlace the fingers, this time right thumb over the left, or whatever you didn't do last time, or you can keep the hands out by the side. Rooting down through the left foot, our right foot will rise any amount, flexing the heel, finding your drishti, something not moving, using your breath. And then when you're ready, pressing the heel, stamping it to the back wall. Arms will extend forward and hold here. Woo. Good. Keep breathing. Keeping your belly button pulled in. Good, and then go ahead and come into your crescent lunge. Nice and gentle. Inhale to lift. And exhale, sink. Pressing the heel back. I know that these ones can be challenging, but that's okay. It's okay to challenge the body a little bit. Get into that I can mindset. And then drop the heel down, open up the arms, forward fold, wide runner's lunge, that front leg. A couple breaths in here, couple breaths out. Good, and go ahead and look up. We're gonna come straight into pigeon pose from here. So a pivot on that back heel. We're just gonna gently set the right knee down, flatten the foot. And from here, heel toe that left foot across the mat to the opposite side. And then shift the hips forward into your pigeon. Now, if you have to, take that back foot, scooch it back any amount, and then work the weight down. So keeping your heel close to your pelvic floor. If you need to, you can always take a pillow or a block, place it underneath the hip for extra support. Otherwise, let's come down onto the elbows. If that's available, you can always put your forearms up on your blocks if you're building up that flexibility. But if you'd like, go ahead and surrender down. And a couple more breaths in, couple more breaths out. You guys got some bonus minutes today. I'm not usually the best with telling time, or I can tell time, but staying on time is another story. So allowing the shoulders to melt down here. Good, one more breath in. And then as you exhale, let's lift up just for a moment, lifting the chest. So these practices, although they can get a little discouraging with some of the postures we do, if you saw that I fell out about 6 times. So it's not so much about getting discouraged with yourself, it's about just jumping right back on the mat and continuing on moving forward. So even though your body might feel a little different than it did last week or even a few years ago, don't let that stop you from stretching out and feeling good and taking the time to unwind. It's like brushing your teeth. Ain't no thing. Again, I don't always give the best examples, but me chit-chatting just allows you to stay in pigeon pose longer, and that's what we all really want at the end of the day. Good. When you're ready, tuck the right toes, press through the heel. Let's wring out that left leg. Any amount, any way that feels good. And switch sides. Right leg rises. Drive it forward between the hands. Gently set it down on the mat. Heel toe that left foot back any amount. Come on down. And again, this is where you can take that block if it needs to come underneath the glute or the hip for extra support. Otherwise, come on down. Settle in, grab a snack. And just take a few deep breaths here. Zone out. This is the part of practice where we can let go a little bit of our vulnerability, vulnerability. Let go of judgment. And just stay soft. And we'll take just a couple more breaths here. Maybe just getting a little deeper. Starting to release the tension that we might have been carrying with us on this Monday. knowing that the day is done. I'm just taking one more breath here. And then as you exhale, maybe coming up, opening up the chest. And then we will come on to the sits bones. Now today we're gonna end a little bit differently. If you'd like to come down into your Shavasana, you're welcome to rest back. Maybe pull the knees into the chest, rock it out side to side, releasing that lower back to the floor. If you have any final postures or poses you like to do to finish up your practice, I welcome you to just pause this video and go ahead and climb into whatever posture you like or extra stretches. Otherwise, stretching out the legs on the mat, arms are gonna float up overhead. Getting in a full body stretch, just like we did at the beginning of class, except we are standing. And now we're down on the mat, so just go ahead and inhale, lifting up the arms, maybe the small of the back releases from the floor. And then as you exhale, go ahead and lift those arms up over the head and allow them to fall down on either side. Allow the eyes to close. And again, feel free to just pause this video if you want to take a little bit longer of a Shavasana and come into any meditative state that feels good. Otherwise, just go ahead and take a breath in through the nose and a breath out. Melting down with each exhale. And then maybe bending the knees, allowing the legs to just windshield wipe side to side. Maybe dropping the neck left to right. And then pulling the knees back in for a squeeze. Feeling free to rock it out side to side. And then when you're ready, no rush today. Go ahead and rock and roll your way up into a comfortable seated position, keeping your eyes lowered or shut, or you can open them if you'd like. And we'll just end in a comfortable seated position with our hands at heart center. Eyes are going to look down at the fingers and the thumbs are pointed at the heart. Go ahead and take a deep breath in, side out. And again, taking a deep breath in, sigh it out. And last time, deeply breathing in this new vital energy. And exhaling out any stress, negativity, or anything that no longer serves you. We finished our practice today. Yogis did a beautiful job. And together we say, Namaste. Thank you guys so much for joining, or if you're joining this later, I hope you get to enjoy this practice. We teach it every Monday at 4:30 live here. If you have anyone you'd like to invite, feel free to just reach out to me, Wes, or Stacy. We'll make sure we get you set up here. Just don't forget that our studio is open for classes during the week, so if you'd like to sign up for those, you can message me privately and I will get you going on that. Otherwise, happy Monday, and I will see you guys soon.